Should we be trying to increase the length of our lives? Or should we accept who we are and the changes we're experiencing?
My one physical training goal was at 80 years of age to be able to walk up any hill, ski down any mountain, and surf any wave with my grandkids and my great-grandkids. So I look at it, and it's caused me to actually constantly question, what am I doing chemically, emotionally, structurally, to actually go, will I achieve my one physical goal that I've left? After sport, my one physical goal left is to be able to do this when I'm 80. You know, what would I do with an extra 10 years of good health? Is I actually want to be really around my kids and my grandkids to help them become more aware, more conscious, to help them with whatever they're born in this lifetime to realise or to bring into this world. I don't want to live forever. I just want to actually make sure I've finished everything I came to start, or I started and came to do.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Beitz. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons.
The husband and wife team who are my guests today have been on the podcast separately before, so I'll give you a very brief bio for them both. Trevor Hendy is a 6-time Surf Lifesaving Australian Ironman champion and 4-time World Ironman champion. Jo Hendy runs a program called the Sacred Sister Project in schools and co-hosts one of my favourite podcasts, Girl Awakening. I've invited them here today to talk about how we manage our mental, emotional and physical bodies as we grow older. I'm the oldest one in the room, so I'm very interested in what they're going to share. Jo and Trevor, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Doug. It's so nice to be here with Trev and yourself.
How old are you again?
I turned 60 about 6 months ago. And absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 61. Oh, I don't know if I want to be 60. I'm really loving being 60.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when I hit 40, life changed for the better. Things got a lot better. And now 50 was good. 50 was extremely memorable because Sally planned my birthday party for a year. And we were living overseas on a little island, and it was sort of the party of the decade. That's how she organised it. It was so amazing. But turning 60 is really wonderful. And in Chinese medicine, there's a thing I study, and the 60th decade is supposed to be the most enjoyable one.
Nice.
So, and it's for me, it's been, and others listening may not think that, but for me it is. So I guess one of the first things I want to ask you about aging, and Trevor and I just briefly mentioned this before we started, should we be trying to increase the length of our lives, or should we accept who we are and the changes we're experiencing? Who wants to go first on that?
Well, I turned 50 a couple of years ago, and that was when we're talking about health. It was probably the first time that I've ever had to really look at, what I was putting in my body, how much exercise I was doing, how much I actually even considered the insides of me, which became so much more important once I hit 50 for some reason. I don't know whether that's a normal thing that happens.
You never had to worry about it before.
I've never had to worry about it before. My weight was always, I was a very, I don't want to say blessed, but I was very lucky with my weight and my health and although I didn't really think about it even, it was never something that was at the top of my list, where I know, and now I have so much compassion and understanding for women in particular who go through their lives with issues around weight or health. I've been so lucky to not have that. But yeah, since turning 50, I've definitely taken a lot more care around the insides of my body, not so much the external, but the insides. Because I think if we can look after the insides, then the outsides will just work themselves out. So yeah, it's the health side of things since turning 50 has been really big for me. As far as exercise, nutrition, supplements, everything. Yeah, mind, very much so the mind too.
So Jo, your vote is yes, we should do something about managing aging?
Absolutely, yeah. From the inside, I don't want to confuse the listeners with beauty and age, because I think we can get confused between when someone says aging. I think the way that the world or society would view that would be through the eyes of beauty, and I don't view it that way. To me,
powerful distinction.
Yeah, to me it's the inside, and it's our mind, and how my bones are going to get through the next 50 years, how are my muscles going to get through the next 50 years, not how is my wrinkles going to look, or, that's my mentality now. It's kind of been a shift for me in that area. Yeah.
So you're a yes?
I'm a yes.
I think we were chatting about it before we walked in and started, and that I've started the podcast with Dr. Denise Furness and Danny Urbinder, and they're both really big in the field of nutrition, and Denise is actually an epigeneticist, a famous Australian epigeneticist, like a bit of a rock star in the US, but not over here, And so we've recorded about 8 episodes it's called Future Lab. So it's literally about this exact question, and I'll get to that in a second, but we've banked these episodes and we're about to probably launch the same time as this one will come out, funnily enough. But one of the bylines of our podcast is exploring human potential through the lens of science and soul. So the funny thing is when we have the podcast, Danny it anchors it, and Denise and I, so Denise is the female, she's the science, and I'm the male and I'm the soul. So it's not like the opposite of what it normally is. And we have these amazing, conversations and met some great guests and everything already. But the question that is always left to me to ask at the finish is, if I could give you an extra 10 years, what would you want to do with it? And when we went to answer that in our first pilot episode, Denise burst into tears because she realised her mother had Alzheimer's. And then she went, well, everything I've learned is because of that challenge that I had, and I felt helpless and I couldn't help her. I didn't know what to do, and I suppressed it and I ran away from the problem. And so she's become a leader in this field because of that. And then as she's crying, I'm looking at her and tears are forming in my eyes, and the question got to me, and it was like, well, my father's got dementia. He's 90 right now, and the last 10 years has watched that decline where you lose what you think the relationship is with the person. So the relationship with my father would be, hey, Trevor, what have you been up to? Oh, I've been working down in Melbourne, working with so-and-so. Oh, what's that like? And oh, how's that been? And then you build on this communication. Oh, how's that been going next time you see him? And then the first time I went to him, he said, what have you been doing? And I said, I've been in Melbourne working with this person. He said, oh, he'd be great to work with. Yeah. I said, yeah. And then 5 minutes later, he said, so what have you been doing? And I repeated the same thing. And he said, oh, he'd be good to work with. And I was like, oh, okay. So one person's aware of what's happening here and one person's not. And so it led me down a path of going, I don't want to end up that way, but I don't want my kids to also end up going through something if it doesn't need to happen. So it's led me down this path of understanding from a body, mind and soul connection, chemical, emotional, structural, what leads to aging and what leads to this diminishment of capacity and capability. So I've ended up in this strange place because we did, a podcast, and I think I shared with you that my one physical training goal was at 80 years of age to be able to walk up any hill, ski down any mountain, and surf any wave with my grandkids and my great-grandkids. And in that one statement, I want to be able to pass on my love of the water and my safety for it so they can sort of go through our family and they can enjoy that thing. But also it means that I need to be able to bend over, pick up things, paddle into pipeline if that's where they want to surf, or ski down a double black if that's what they want to ski. So I look at it and it's caused me to actually constantly question, what am I doing chemically, emotionally, structurally, to actually go, will I achieve my one physical goal that I've left? After sport, my one physical goal left is to be able to do this when I'm 80. And so every time I go to eat that thing, like I've got not so much a sugar thing, but more a chocolate thing, like a dark chocolate thing. And, if you can get a healthy alternative dark chocolate, maybe it's even vegan, so it's not dairy, because I'm a bit dairy intolerant. I'm not vegan, but I'm dairy intolerant. And if I can find that, my mind automatically goes, well, this is good, and you've been a good boy lately, and you've worked hard and everything else. So even the things of joy and what I can enjoy in my life, I question lately, it's just been the last couple of days, isn't it? After a real spell of going, I lost about 6 kilos, and then I put on about 2, and I went, what's the one thing that's changed? Well, I put on, I'm going, having those afternoon healthy snacker balls with, So it's a long answer to the question because I've become passionate about it. And it is, my answer is yes, because, what would I do with an extra 10 years of good health is I actually want to be really around my kids and my grandkids to help them become more aware, more conscious, to help them with whatever they're born in this lifetime to realise or to bring into this world. I don't want to live forever. I just want to actually make sure I've finished everything I came to start, or I started and came to do. So I'm a big yes, Doug, and I just believe, when I was driving here with Jo today, I had this feeling. We had a friend who'd sent a message about, some challenges we're going through at a family level in the male lineage, and she was talking about, I suspect it's like a bit of the Knights of the Round Table. And I said, it's really funny that I'm driving to see Doug, because that's how I feel about Doug. I feel it's like we would have hung out on the Druid Plains or whatever, like there's something about the way you are and everything else that I love. So that's the other thing I want to do with the rest of my time, is to find all the incredible people that I feel connected with and have cool conversations. And, and besides that, I just think we're just becoming more in love than we've ever been.
Oh.
The answer to that is yes, honey. Yes,
honey. Yes,
and I'm way less controlling than I used to be. The answer to that's yes, honey. But I just feel like, I love what you said about being 60, because I'm 55, 56 in a couple of months, and I don't see age as anything anymore. I just I see the body as something to look after, like a temple, and very much so. And I don't know, I just see the magic and the possibilities. I just see maybe our kids are going to come into the best times of their lives at the moment. And, more grandkids on the way. Number 4 is only a couple of weeks away. So, so big yes from me, mate.
Yeah.
Look after ourselves, because there's more we're here to do.
Yeah. And I get that, because I was talking to someone the other day about this, and they were talking about, some things with aging, where we were not looking so beautiful anymore, our physical appearance, we, need to accept those sort of things.
Yeah.
And a few months ago, I came to a realisation with a lady I was interviewing that, because I always say love's the most powerful thing. And I'm like, I get it, I believe you, I totally believe that. It's like, what is love? And on this lady, when I was interviewing her, she came out with acceptance. When you can accept other people, you love them. When you can accept yourself, the changes that are happening in our bodies and things like that, that's self-love, that acceptance. And I was like, and so even like when we're 20, we do things because we want to stay fit and healthy. So as we get older and our bodies change, we need to do that. And you're talking about like having the little bits, the treats and the chocolates, and I think that's important because it makes us feel good.
Yeah.
Like a couple of hours ago, Scotty, who was here setting up our little setup, taught me many months ago how to make a really good cacao.
Yeah.
And so I probably haven't had a coffee in I've probably had 2 coffees in the last 2.5, 3 months.
Yeah.
And they're spinning me out now. Like I think we're getting hot. Like it's like, whoa, so I'm really, and that's half strength coffee, which is I was on for a long time. So I had that pleasure of that cacao, and it's that, that's sort of the emotional side. Like I feel good now because of that as well. But, like my dad, he passed away 2 years ago at 92.
Yeah.
100% cognitive.
Oh, wow.
But we think lung cancer got to him.
Right.
He started smoking at 12.
Yeah, right.
So he'd smoked for 80 years.
Yeah.
And it just got to him then. So it was pleasurable. And he occasionally quit smoking for a whole year. On New Year's Day, he would set his little intention, and he would not smoke for a year.
Wow. And then he took it back up again?
The next year he'd start again for many years.
It was his pleasure, it was his thing.
So it's, in those sort of things. I do think we've got to enjoy the ride.
One of the things that I'm learning from Denise at the moment is that the MTHFR gene, which is looks like it's spelled like the mother effer, you know, because this gene in particular in the gene sequence, if we have it, if you've got this, you can get it from both sides. So if you've got both sides of it, it's kind of a tricky thing. You got to build a bigger bridge. If you get it from one side, you got to build a bit of a bridge over this issue, this challenge. But what it basically means is if you have the MTHFR gene, whatever they call it, I'm still learning. But if you have this issue, what it means is you don't methylate your, particularly vitamin B, and I think it's folate, but particularly vitamin B, you don't methylate it properly. So B12 is so very important to us. And if we can have all the B12 in the world, but if your body has the gene that doesn't methylate it, then you'll have all the challenges that come with that. And that includes, one of the big ones in there is Alzheimer's and dementia and everything else. So what we're discovering is in our genetics, there's a lot more people born with this gene. Now, it sounds like it's a problem, but ultimately what she's been teaching me is no, that gene might have adapted in your family lineage during Roman times or Nordic times or whatever it is to avoid, to stop you from getting a certain flu or cold or, you know, the bubonic plague or whatever else it is. So the thing that was created to stop one problem ends up creating another problem. But you got to understand, but you won't die of that. But you've got to understand how to bridge this. So it's really easy. You get what's called a methylated B12. So if you have that, so the B12 being methylated, therefore it's like building a bridge over this broken circuit and it gets straight into the system. So just using that as an example, it's been fascinating me that, okay, I actually think the cool thing about, because I'm all about the love, I'm all about the connection, I'm about freeing out and understanding what life means and what it's trying to teach us. And it's a spiritual game. It's if we're, you know, spiritual beings having a physical experience. But then I'm also getting to see, but if you understand the codes that are going on inside of you, you can dodge a couple of bullets and also look after yourself. And then you don't actually end up being, you know, there's a lot of sicknesses and there's a guy now with an Alzheimer's clinic and he claims to reverse Alzheimer's completely. You know, and I think he's just starting to get known. And then the Australian Dr. David Sinclair, has actually discovered that at the base of every cell is the original blueprint of, so a cell has a blueprint, and he explained it that as you age, the cell is like, imagine like a CD or a DVD, that it gets scratches on it and then it can't read the information properly. So it's there, so after it's aged and it's been worn and torn and everything else, it can't regenerate or repair itself the same way. But he discovered, Australian guy, discovered that at the base level of that cell, there's actually a copy of the original blueprint. So what they've realized is through like a gene therapy, through just an antibiotic, they can go in and activate the original copy, which is from when you were first matured, so about 18 years of age. And so it repairs your cells back to, in a very short period of time, back to its original level. And from what I understand, he doesn't want this to get into the hand of the elites or whatever. He wants to make it be able to come through just a simple tablet that people can take, and through nutritional things and everything else. But he got these blind mice with full glaucomas, eyes fully clouded over, gave them the gene therapy, and then their eyes completely repaired back to their original first maturity. So full blind mice with full vision, full 20/20 vision after this gene therapy. So what we're sitting at the doorway to, the threshold we're at, is absolutely incredible. So you ask the question, do we want it? Well, I think probably for most people, yes. Or maybe some are so they're hating their life so much, it's like, no, get me out of here, which is fair enough.
I was thinking about you saying about the disc going back to 18. I'd have to go younger, I reckon.
Yeah.
Because all my chaos was around 18.
Well, your physical body can go back there, and you can deal with your emotional chaos. But ultimately, if we actually, so the other question is, why? You know, and what would we do with it? Because it keeps coming back to, what's our intention? And I think, we've been, Jo and I, dealing with multiple things of growing as a family, as an extended family, of grandkids and everything, and your kids become adults. And it's like, how much of the patterns that they're going through are a reflection of yourself, stuff that you didn't handle in yourself and that you didn't sort out. And so we're constantly getting reminded to judge no one, critique no one, to actually love and say, let's make a difference. So as we're going through this thing, it's like, well, we could actually do more with life, because we're not going to just repeat the same patterns over and over again. But on this planet, we've got wars, we've got famine, we've got, the dog eat dog world. We've got the one-upsmanship. We've very much got the haves and the have-nots, and the middle class is shrinking, and so if we had more life and more life force, but we did the same things with it, not so great. So it's this fascinating part of the whole thing. I think we're at the doorway to some incredible things. So the common thought right now is 120 is easy. In the next 10 years, based on what's coming through, 120 will be easy to achieve with the right things. You've got to sleep, you've got to do some basic things right. But what would you do? 120. Most people are like, I'm ready to tap out at 80, thanks.
The way the planet is, it's like, who wants to stay?
Raise my kids, my grandkids. I've paid off my mortgage. Just, we just bought a camper trailer. Get a caravan, travel around Australia with the great rinse set, So I think if you have a real purpose to be here, then longevity would be a great thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So next, let's talk about life hacks. And I know for my 60th birthday, my oldest son, he's got a light studio, which we just talked about before with Julia, with Jo, and I. Something he expanded out from that was a sound bed. He made his own sound bed, bought all the components and that sort of thing. And so for my 60th birthday, he bought me the components. So I now have my own sound bed.
Oh, wow. That's heaven.
And then for my wife's 60th birthday, they bought her a PEMF mat. And it's a mat you lay on, and it's probably got tens of thousands of crystal chips, like tiny, all sewn in. It's probably like 10 mil thick into this big long bed, and it's got red lights coming up under it. It's got a heater in it, and then it's got magnetic things through the middle of it that run up the spine. And so you put that on, so we lay that on the sound bed, and when you go to the studio tomorrow, they have
feel you were just Joe's walking across the yard trying to find it.
Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So so I'm very much into biohacking now myself, within reason. So several days a week, I find myself for 30 minutes on the sound bed. So the vibration through it, because I love massages anyway.
Yeah, me too.
And you've got the whole vibration through the body. And I can't remember what the P stands for now. It's PEMF, so it's electromagnetic frequency, but I think it's P, might be pulse. Anyway,
I think it's pulse, yeah.
And so it's, and it's not like one of the real expensive. You can pay $5,000 or $10,000 for these mats. It's not one of those. Yeah. But we hop on that a few days a week and that sort of thing.
How incredible that your children bought that for you.
Oh, yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, because they could
see us starting to age, and they have an interest in, and like I said, you're only turning 60 once. Yeah. Let's get you something special, and so we've got that and do that sort of thing, and so it's part of my. I've got about 7 or 8 things I do in the mornings, but I obviously can't do them all in the mornings, or it'd be half a day routine. But I rotate them through the week, from meditation and light exercise. I'm no Ironman. I do my Wim Hof breathing and a few other things like that. So what sort of life hacks have you heard about, or do you indulge in?
Life hacks.
Life hacks, biohacking, to try and keep the fountain of youth, to try and keep our physical, emotional, mental bodies in shape.
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit more old school, where I actually like to work out. So I'm a bit of a gym girl, and I do love my Pilates. So for me, it's probably old school, just a good workout.
But you love a sauna and a steam?
I do love a sauna and, and steam, yep. I'd probably maybe 3 or 4 times a week, steam or sauna. But other than that, I listen to that, what you're saying, and I could quite easily do that. That would be part of I'm right into the whole, I do listen. Actually, this is something that I do, and I'm probably unaware that it's actually having an effect on me, although I do know it has an effect on me, is I put every day on YouTube high frequency music, which plays throughout the house, and that's just going all the time. So now you've asked me that question, I would say that definitely has an effect on my well-being.
And if I said, well, why do you do that? You just answered it. You want to improve your overall well-being.
Yeah.
I can see some simple ones you do religiously.
Yeah, it's probably things that I'm unaware of. Yeah.
She walks in every single morning on daybreak.
Yeah, so I like
to the sun, talks to the moon.
Talk to the moon, talk to the sun. So I get up, before.
Like not walks down and walks the whole way, has a relationship with the dawn every single day.
Yeah,
and
every day.
With a couple of girlfriends at different stages or on your own.
Absolutely, yeah. So
That's a life hack.
That is a life hack.
100%, because you're amazing when you do that.
I do,
You're really terrible when you don't.
No. I was just about to say I can feel the difference when I don't walk, but you know what, if I didn't do any form of exercise or walk or anything in the morning, I do not feel the same person. I feel tired. I feel like the energy is lower if I'm not doing any type of action in the morning, because I've always been an active person. I've never been a lazy person.
You weren't always an early morning person though, and that's what's incredible about the last couple of decades, is that you are absolutely an early morning person.
Yeah.
Like you start, quite often before I do. The other one is, like, do you want me to say always before I do? Is that what you want to hear? But the other one is magnesium.
Oh, well, so that's supplements. I don't know. Do you mean, is that what you mean?
As well?
Yeah. So I take supplements at night.
Magnesium basica.
When I hop into bed, yeah.
And the blue tongue.
Yep. So I take blue methylene, which is what Trevor's talking about a little bit before, which is goes in and activates the cells. So all these little things, I suppose, support medicinal. So even like mushrooms, drops in coffee or drops in tea. So I suppose there's a lot of
bone broth most days. Yeah.
Greens
with greens and MCT
oil. That would be more for
bit of turmeric, curcumin.
Yep. Yeah, so there's probably many things.
Because I found it fascinating that when Jo was answering the question, I'm like, you have a bunch of life hacks. Because there's not med beds or whatever, it doesn't mean... and those things work for you really well.
Yeah, they do. They align with me. And I'm really, and unbeknownst or unaware that I'm super tuned into my body, but I don't, like if Trev's taking something and I'll say, what are you taking? Because he's always getting things sent to him to try and... from people, and he'll take something and I'll be like, oh wow, that sounds amazing, and then I'll try it and I'll be like, nah, that doesn't work for me, that's for him. Or there's other things that he'll get sent and he won't be so keen on it, and I'll try it and go, oh, I love that, and so I'll steal it. So I'm more tuned into my body as I've got older than what I was when I was younger. I didn't put as much emphasis on it, I suppose, or didn't think or tune into it as much as I do now. So
yeah. Interesting. What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've always had, because I worked and loved working with Keithy Maitland, the chiropractor. I think I mentioned in our first podcast that.
Can I just say one thing that just reminded me? We do not see a doctor either, and we haven't probably in 30 years.
Yeah.
So our doctor is a kinesiologist.
Yeah.
So with anything.
Yeah, I can remember a couple of years ago I went to get my wax washed out of my ears, and I went to one of these after hours ones, like at 8 o'clock, and they said, well, who's your normal doctor? Like, we need to know that. And I'm like,
don't have one.
You. I don't know. Like I don't remember the last time I went to a doctor,
I had, when I had COVID, we had managed to get a hold of some ivermectin at that stage, and we were like, okay, a horse dewormer,
We felt like we were doing something dodgy,
But one of the most successful medicines. But even that was like, I bought into the idea that you needed a medicine to treat COVID. So I had ivermectin, and then I tried Nurofen Plus because I had this incredible headache. And I had it the second time. Then I felt a weird heart flutter, like I was like, what the hell? And that's the only headache tablet I've had in 25 years. And I haven't had antibiotics or anti-inflammatories or anything since 1993, 94, right? And through just working with Keithy and being honest about where we're actually at, like seeing our health as our responsibility, not someone else's. So never really been into medicine, but been into nutrition. Magnesium's been the one thing that's been common for me for about 10 years, particularly with Keith, come along, but about 8 years. Really strong magnesium, and I can't believe how much stuff comes out of me consistently from that. And if I have magnesium and I haven't had any dairy or gluten the day before, nothing happens. If I've had dairy or gluten or a bit of sugar or something, I'll get all this phlegm with a bit of colour in it and cleans it out, which is just, phlegm's just a pathway. It's not an evil thing, it's just a pathway, you know. So it's fascinating how that's really cool. But in recent times, I've been working with Melrose Health, and they've put together this range of a longevity range, and it'll be launched around about when this comes out. But it's like 11 products, and I won't go into what they're for.
They're incredible.
Because the launch is massive. It's unbelievable. And these guys all worked at Blackmores, Bioceuticals. They all worked in different places, and often they found maybe it was a publicly owned company or whatever, and so it was like, oh, we can't push the boundary too much with this product or whatever. And this is a family-owned Australian company that goes, let's go. You know, so they've actually got all this amazing stuff that's on the cutting edge. And so it's got me excited again about, you know, there's heart health, there's brain health, there's all sorts of things from simple fat loss right through to cognitive health, you know.
But it's all around aging.
Cellular health. Yeah. It's all around longevity, 11 products. And what's interesting is that I'm looking and going, wow, like this to me is just a sign of where we're all going. In that range, there's only one other company that has any range similar to it. So what's fascinating is about the time that we're in.
Yes.
Because soon there'll be many more. The other big companies will go, oh, that one you did is way better than the one we did. Whatever it is, they'll go, then they'll have to follow down this path. And that's the cool thing. It's great to ride the first wave. That was my whole life, was to be on the first wave. You know, in an Ironman comp, get on the first wave. You know, but and it's always been that way for me. Even spiritually, with the stuff we went through, was a bit of a first wave thing. But that's cool. But the great thing about it is what it demonstrates, that eventually everyone's riding that wave. So I think I'm definitely into nutrition, but in the way that's what's specific to you, which is where I find the genes has become an interesting thing, because it's like, oh, if you know what you need, you just have those things and you don't have to take 100 different things. Because cutting to what I wanted to say is good, simple, like clean water, you know, not town water, not fluoride and chlorine filled and everything else. Sleeping, you know, actual proper sleep. Device time switched off well before sleep, something I'm still working on, because I love researching on YouTube and I find myself getting fascinated by this. And then I'm like going, flick it off and then go to sleep. And I'm like, and then I put my head on the pillow and it's going in my head, you know, like, oh, you're in the wrong frequency, dude, you know. Yeah. So sleeping also, how long before you sleep do you eat? What do you eat? Is sugar the last thing you have? You know, right through to when you sleep, like becoming elite at sleeping, I'm finding is a really fascinating subject. It's like, if I sleep really well, I'm a way better person the next day. But if I sleep average, I've actually got to rise the next day and bring my best self forward to actually get through the day. This morning, said to Jo, oh my God, this thing that we're learning around family stuff at the moment, it chased me all night. I dreamt about it from 100 different angles and lucidly dreaming, knowing I'm working through it, waking up, and just to, you know, people wouldn't be surprised, but Jo does snore. Nowhere near as louder as long as me.
I had the best night's sleep I've had in months
Jo's
last night.
Crashed.
So
and I'm going,
deep.
I can't even go. Oh my God, hold on, this thing's chasing me. But having said that, it chased me all night, but I also knew when it got in my mind not to get in the rabbit hole of where it went in my mind, to go into my feelings. And I do a couple of breaths that I do. There's just nose breath. It's a long, slow out, like 3-part breath in and then a long, slow breath out, which is another biohack. And it's a, what's his name? We'll remember in a minute. But
Not Wim Hof.
No, the neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman.
Oh, yeah.
Really beautiful thing that he's done. And I was doing that when I was racing naturally. And I was like, I know what this is. So you can bring your nervous system in. So I was doing that in the middle of the night. And then I got some good sleep in the morning. Then I saw Jo and I went, she's like, how are you? And I'm like, that sleep was like a battle, you know. But having said that, within 2 hours of that, I had the 2 biggest cries of my lifetime this morning. Literally about healing past stuff about worthiness and not being good enough as a father, you know, and as a son. And and if you take Father, Son, you can go into all sorts of concepts. If you're a Christian, you go into the Christ concept, or the God, or the people that played the biggest roles in your life, you know. And it went to all those places for me, and I'm not religious. I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And so it's funny because I think the backdrop of good foods, I don't have dairy, I don't have gluten, I limit sugar majorly. I don't drink alcohol, haven't drunk alcohol for years. I don't drink coffee. I've had half a coffee in my life. And I just dodge that bullet. It's not like, I don't drink coffee. It gets like that sometimes when...
I make up for him.
We'll go travelling through the Northern Territory and we've got like 3 cars or whatever, people camping with us, and they're all like, I'm like, I can't wait to get to that waterfall. And they're like, boiling the coffee. I'm like, for God's sake, can we get moving? But if the basic things, sleep, the good basic foods, and understanding no artificial sweeteners, like my God, get rid of them. No diet this, diet that. It's terrible. You know, things that people don't know. A lot of your listeners would know, but then I meditate, not a lot. I do meditate. I more so I'd sit still and just close my eyes and feel everything. I do Qigong. I walk with Jo once every 12 months.
I was just about to say, I'm waiting for it to see when this comes out.
I body surf, I foil. I do things, I foil surf and everything to get the flow. I hang out with my mates, I fish. These to me are life hacks. Yeah. And so I actually care for other people, and I'm in the field of caring for other people. That's a life hack for me. When something happens, I go, how's that related to me? Like, not as in a selfish way, as in, it's a bit blocked here. Have I got the same thing so I can help change it? To me, they're life hacks. But what that means is at the end of the day, when I have a bad night's sleep and I'm like, something's actually trying to change through me. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. It's happening through me. And I literally had the 2 biggest cries I've had in my life. And I said to Jo and Charlie, well, I think that's the biggest cry I've ever had in my life. I felt the depth of not feeling good enough as a little kid, as a little boy in this world. And I'm like, oh my God, I've done so much work on myself and I'd never felt that depth, you know. And then I said to Keith, who I saw straight afterwards and ended up having a massive cry on his bench, I can't remember what I said, but it was something along the lines of, I said, well, I think that will be the biggest cry I ever have. Like, I went to feel the thing that I needed to feel, which is I'm good enough as I am, and I'm more about love than I am about winning, and I'm more about care than I am about conquering, and I'm more about feeling than I am about planning and plotting and thinking and scheming and, you know, getting ahead. And I only said to you 3 days ago, didn't I, that my thing that popped out 3 days ago to make this awareness possible was, oh my God, I'm always trying to be ahead of the pack. You know how I said on the first wave, that's a double-edged sword, because it's great to be on the first wave, but when the need to have the chocolate is my problem. It's not having the chocolate, it's when I have the chocolate so I don't feel these things, so I can get by without having to feel the pain and feel the suffering and feel the things that I've buried. So from a life hack perspective, it's the basics, it's some decent nutrition, it's the movement, it's the love, it's the connection, it's the honesty. And then I just believe that creates a space for something really cool to happen. And then in that recognition, then there's something very purposeful about all of our interactions and relationships, because none of it's by accident. So it goes from a life hack all the way through to living a life of purpose from very simple stuff, you know. Yeah. I didn't plan that answer to be that long, but that's not unusual.
I'm still blown away that Leah's your daughter-in-law.
There you go.
Your light session that you're booking for tomorrow.
And that is a super life hack, because a couple of years ago they bought the light, this Lucia light, and it's a very expensive item, I can tell you.
Yes.
And they leased the shop, but they spent several months fitting the shop out.
Yeah.
And you'll see it tomorrow, the beautiful big mirrors and the LED lights they've done it really well. So we had the light here at the house for several months.
Yeah.
So I sort of popped off about 60 sessions. So I was the guinea pig.
Yes.
Because the music you listen to changes the light. Because it's just white light flashing at different frequencies.
Yes.
It does the colour, there's no colour in the light, but you see massive colours of like kaleidoscope. And we've tried it with lots of different types of music. And some musics are it's just like a bleh.
Yes.
And others it's really heightens. And I've tried it with small amounts of certain substances and larger amounts of substances. And once I pushed the limit to the max, and after 40 minutes, I actually had my podcast microphone with me, and I was trying to narrate what was going on.
Oh, I love that.
It was insanity. My mouth got sore from trying to talk so much. It was changing. It felt, at the end of 40 minutes, it felt like I had lived 10,000 lifetimes. I was on other planets, and then a second later I was on the beach here.
Wow.
2 seconds later I was in our lounge room. A millisecond later I was inside this planet. Now this doesn't happen, and I did take a substance. And that,
a plant medicine?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was initially, the first sort of dozen sessions or so, it was like there's a veil, and like I put my fingers in front of my eyes and there's a slight mesh and you can just see through. Now, sometimes the gaps open.
Yes.
When I did it with the substance,
the gaps
cracked
right open.
it was like, oh my God, I can see on the other side of the veil, and it was changing multiple times a second. There was nothing scary.
Yes.
It was just the volume of information. I was exhausted after it. And because of the substance, time was irrelevant. And so you will not go through an experience like that tomorrow.
Well, unless I take a substance before I go. No, I'm kidding.
I had done several dozen sessions, and it just...
Bone broth might do it.
Yeah.
It's super amazing.
I'm looking forward to it.
Really, really good.
This reminds me where I mentioned to Jo yesterday, I think it was, that I did a meditation on the beach, because one of the other things I do is breath. We have our breath and breakthrough retreats, and the Wim Hof, more Tumo style, the original where Wim drew his breath from. That's interesting, drew his breath. So I'm finding it at the moment quite fascinating. I'm doing it with music, and the music's releasing some pretty crazy things in me. But I had this realization where I went, I was actually doing it with Keith. We did the breath thing with Keith, and I actually went off outside the planet, and I went past the information. I went through the information beyond the veil and out beyond, so I could see the chaos in the information. So there was so much information. And everything, all the love and care, like why was that religion created? Why was that one? Why did we fight over it? So it's all the chaos of the duality in the information, right through to, could be light therapy or plant medicines. It was like everything that was to do with information was pure chaos. And there was this energy on the outside of it that was literally saying, hey, this is the way I like it, because as long as I keep you in information, I keep you in cycles and in repeating, and you're going to be here over and over and over again, because you can't decipher and work your way out of it through information. You have to go out to the oneness, to the consciousness beyond. So I went right outside. I had massive relief from popping outside for a few moments, and then I walked into the water, and I could feel, because I was supposedly a master in the ocean, right? And I could feel the ocean lapping up against me, but like it was caressing me fully. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't have this level of relationship with you, like to sort of the mother ocean, the feminine, the beautiful thing. And when I laid back, it was just like I was disappearing in the ocean.
That feels beautiful.
So I feel like there's such a profound thing happening right now. And I did remember, that I keep saying I'm not religious, but clearly I've had lifetimes where I've been involved, because I remember the thing, Adam ate the fruit from the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what I understand about that now in its symbolism is that as soon as we try to actually get the knowledge of good and evil so that we end up on the right end of it, like we end up winning, because good and evil is the paradigm, is the structure, is the 4D. So it's like anywhere where we've got information rather than intuition, instinct, connection, letting go, like anything we're holding on to, is keeps us inside this realm. And
filling the space.
Or filling the space, filling each other's space, and destroying our relationships with each other, because I can't actually see who you are, because I'm seeing you through a field of information that I've previously experienced, and I'm applying you to it or it to you.
Actually,
that's the timelessness is lost in the information.
You sent me a video actually the other day, which was a scientist had taken a photo of Nothingness.
Oh, the nothing.
The nothing.
In a certain portion of nothing within a vacuum. Yeah.
Yes, but there was obviously a noise in there. There was all this.
The nothing was never still.
Never
it was
still.
Always
it was
interacting.
constant, and it was like I was watching it, going, I can feel that. You know, we are never in that space of nothingness, because, I mean, not only is our mind always, you know, going over, but then there's the outside of that, just in the space outside of us, with the world that's constantly adding more and more noise into the space.
So, like stimulated over and over. And what I actually saw on the outside was, there's a being out here that loves this. There's like an entity out here going, hey, let's stimulate it.
Yeah.
I set the rules. Just pop you back into loss or winning. Because if you think you're winning, you're taken out. If you think you're losing, you're taken out. You know, taken out of presence, and you're going back into this place of better or worse, and good and bad, right or wrong. But that thing was amazing. Hey, it was going.
It's crazy. I know Helen Padron talks a lot about true rest, that we don't know the concept of true rest. And when she said it on our podcast, it really resonated with me, because I was thinking, even though when we do sleep or when we do rest, we're never in the true restful state, because there's always noise around us, going on around us. It's so interesting.
I think for the tiny pockets that we do pop into it, it feels like you've had a massive healing, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if we ever do actually get there.
Something you said earlier, Trevor, about riding that first wave. You know, like you always want it. You know, when you're racing, Ironman, surf, lifesaving.
Serve the soul and the ego.
Yeah.
The soul is like all about the first wave, and the ego's going, yeah, I'll go.
And I'm thinking it sort of could be the intention there too of, am I riding the first wave for my ego so I can win and it's all about me, or am I a way shower? Am I on that first wave that's the hardest, and everyone thought it was too hard to do that, but I've now shown. So it's like with life hacking, where people are inventing things and trying things, and it's like, yes, I'm going to be the pioneer. I'm going to show that this can be done, and here's the benefits of it, and that sort of thing. So I guess there's always the double-edged sword. There's always the two sides to it.
I think it's which masters it feeding. You know, so it feeds the self, which is separated from source. Then it feeds more separation, and then we can only get more. Let's call it karma, but a repeated effect from it, because we haven't actually served the ultimate source, which is the oneness, which is where we return to that and we see each other and everybody else, and vice versa. But yeah, I find it really fascinating. Even what people are doing with mushrooms these days, right through from medicinal mushrooms, you know, like plant medicine mushroom elements, right down to all the different things being done with all the beautiful mushroom components and everything. Like that one that I've got, the Immortal Blends that I've tried recently. Oh my goodness, incredible! You know, like amazing stuff. And where there's so many incredible people that are on the first wave. They're going, I'm going to care for this mushroom and treat it in this way, and I'm going to bring it. And their intention is to actually bring source through it. And the whole understanding of mushroom is from the mycelium, and the mycelium is the thing. Basically an avatar that connects the mother tree, you know, and all this sort of stuff. So I feel like the first wave's fascinating because it's all about, I think of this one thing, the amount of times I've been in a group of people in my later life and realised I either have to speak first or I have to feel first. And so in that particular moment, the first wave is who's going to crack out of the identity, the front cover, and say what they're really thinking or feeling. And so as the more I've lived on that first wave, I've had many moments where I've just gone, I think I'm going to really cry here. And it's like, well, off you go. That's where your truth is. Like, it's not a show, it's who you are. You know, just feel this thing. And then people go, oh my God.
Thank God he did that.
Thank God he did that, you know. And particularly for me, I'm like the Ironman. I was the guy. I was on the front cover of this, and I played myself on Baywatch as a reminder. But life highlight. You know, that whole self that was connected to that thing. When I do a lot of public speaking, and when I'm standing up to do these public speaking, and I'll tell a story, and every now and then to that particular group, the same story will hit a new depth in me, and I'll have to stop in the middle of the story, and I'll cry. Yeah. And then I just go there. You know, I've just learnt it's happening, so go there. And then when I look through the tears, I look around, there could be 200 people in the room, and I can't find anyone who's not crying. You know, because they go, that story's about all of us, isn't it? You know, and so I think ultimately, isn't it funny that the first wave might lead us to realise that we're actually all the same.
Yeah.
You know, we're on one big wave together, but there's a ripple at the front, and then there's a ripple at the back, and then the waves get bigger in the middle. Just because we're in the ripple at the front doesn't mean we're not part of the one big set that everybody's catching. Right. Set of waves. Surfing analogy there.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, something just reminded me, we were talking about food, nutrition and all that, something that we've purchased recently is a little, like for Australia, it's quite different.
Yes.
And Sally's been on to me for ages to get one, and we finally bought a freeze dryer.
Yes.
So it's an American thing. We bought it from America. And so we've, you know, in case everything goes gobbledygook on the planet, you know, look, we've got like our own underground spring water here, and then part of our biohacking is we tap water from like 30 metres under the ground. And, you know, it's coming down from spring.
For those that don't know where we are, we're sitting in this beautiful creek that every time either of us come here, we go, oh my God, can we move in?
I feel like part of me dropped away, like on the drive out. I actually felt it, drop away, and I felt more of me just driving out here, and it's just like, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I guess that is for us, it's a life hack just living here.
Yeah.
You know, when we looked at the property, the house that you see was nothing like that. I can tell you, we spent a year renovating that. It was, all the stumps were falling, rotting out, and it was out of level. You've got a vertigo walking around in it. So I spent 90% of the time looking at the creek and the fruit trees, and it was like, yes, we can change the house and do that. But with the freeze dryer, we're not worried about the end of the world, but we do have several months of food stored in the house now that has a 20-year life without refrigeration.
That's half that amount when we walk out here during the end of the world.
Because we know where you live.
We won't tell anyone else though, because, you know.
Where are you guys going? We're going to Doug's.
And
with our backpacks on.
We're about to have a big citrus crop.
Wow.
Yes.
And
so I was explaining this to you, wasn't I, on the way out?
With the excess there, we're going to squeeze and we're going to freeze dry, and we've got super duper thermo mix thing that can grind things up into powder. So we're going to make, remember back when we were kids, we had Tang?
Yes.
You know, like the artificial sort of orange. So we're going to have 100% pure orange powder.
Freeze dried.
Yeah, freeze dried. And then we can just scoop it into a glass, and you've got, you know.
Yeah, like lemon juice. Yeah.
So, and supposedly it retains 97% of its nutrition. And so that
should be more than enough to get through the end of the world onto the other side.
Yeah, so it's like we will hopefully, you know, and all you've really got to do is add water.
Yeah.
And so we've got a source of water and things like that. So it's like, if things go really bad, and we haven't bought it for that, but it's like, we've got stuff stocked up, which, you know, and it takes like a day and a half to do its process. But as the months have gone on now, we're banking up things, and we are looking at even selling some of those things, you know.
Good idea.
Some niche little products that we've got here to high-end restaurants, because we can't do a large volume.
Yes.
You know, we can just make niche little things.
Which people love.
Yeah, so
especially
I love that, because it's a meditation. When you're doing it, you're grounding, you're earthing, you're working with Mother Nature, you're seeing her properties and how to look after them, you're learning care and intuition and connection, and learning, collaborating with others to go, how do you do this, and all that, and then you end up with this beautiful little love creation. That's cool. And that's the other biohack I forgot, actually, based on that, is bare feet. Just so grounding. I'm such a fan of bare feet. I ran into a really good friend the other day, and I won't name him, but I walked somewhere. I was at the shops. I wasn't in the Pacific Fair walking through the middle. I was just in a small shopping centre. And he said, "Oh, what's with the bare feet? No, you can't have bare feet. You know how many germs?" And I was like, exactly. You know how many germs I'm actually learning from right now? You know how much upgrading I'm doing? You know how much energy I'm discharging and receiving? You know, like this. And I was like, no, mate, I'm bare feet everywhere. And he's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, yeah, well, sorry, I am. You know, beautiful God, never thought would have said that. Would have thought he would have done the same thing. So it's strange how many blind spots we've all got blind spots. You know, so yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, talking as we get older now, do we get wiser, or do we just think we're getting wiser? Or is, for me, I know the more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah.
How does that feel for you guys?
Oh, no, I absolutely resonate with what you just said. And this is a big thing that I've been talking about lately with Trev and with our kids too, around our story and how much our story locks us into being either in the past or playing a victim role or whatever it may be.
Making us better than someone else or worse than someone else.
And how our story can lock us into the past as well. It's the story of my life or whatever. And we were talking about it only because I don't remember a lot of my childhood, and it doesn't bother me. But then there's some people, just leave it like that. But there's some people that know about all their childhood. And I was like, I take that for me as a good thing, that I don't have stories to tell, or I'm not bringing up something, the reason why I'm like this is because of this or whatever. I'm just like, take each day, I'm here, the sun came up, kind of person. But I feel like that dropping the story has helped me become more of everything that's happening around me is happening for me in the moment, which makes me probably, I would like to think, I don't know about wise, but I'm constantly questioning everything. I don't feel like I know. I definitely don't know everything as far as, living on this planet and being in this energy that we're in, and I'm always questioning. So I feel like I'm at 52 I feel like a child as far as learning something new every day about myself and those around me.
How beautiful is that? 52 years young.
Yeah.
52, yeah, that's
a
a child compared to me.
With her too. She's wild. She's young and wild.
The other thing too is that we've got grandkids, and I have two of them a lot, and I just love being around them because I get so much joy from being around them, and I learn so much about myself, and I am a completely different grandparent to what I was as a parent, completely different. And that our kids have so much to teach us, so much. The moment that we think we know more, you're basically gone.
Yeah.
I think there's a distinction between wisdom and extra knowledge. So you can have a lot more information that you're tapped into, but a wisdom can be the way someone like Jo cares for the grandkids. That to me is a wisdom. So it's more like a felt love, you think of your grandmother or somebody that just really loved you when you were younger. So I think wisdom, we absolutely get wiser as we get older because we become more aware, we get more rounded off, we don't have the sharp edges that we used to have. People feel safer in our space. They might even feel like they can step into our space and feel loved for the first time in a long time, or understood, or whatever it is. I feel when we all do a good job of that, there's definitely a wisdom in that, and there's a beauty in it. And I think I do know that saying that the older I get, the more I realise what I don't know. And I do love that saying because it's so true. But also temper it with, I'm so grateful for what I do now know. So I don't like to throw away what I do know. I don't like to lean on it or rely on it or make it out that I've arrived somewhere that it's magical. But I'm so damn thankful for what I do know. I'm a different person to the person I was. I fought for things before and I was right all the time, and now I'm wrong a lot. But it's good. Jo's laughing because she doesn't think I'm ever wrong. Because she says, "Honey, you're never wrong." I'm sure that's the tone she uses when she says it. But
I think I came to keep you in line.
100%.
Yeah.
But I think that's the wisdom as well, is that the more I see the gift in the partnership and the relationship, I said it to you this morning, in that really deep cry. I don't know if you could hear me. But I was like, what? But I realised the gift of, so I've had two marriages, my first marriage to Jackie with Christelle and TJ, and then my second marriage with Jo with Bailey and Charlie. And we're thankful to
It's
say,
so wild.
relative to the rest of the world, we have an incredible, beautiful, extended family.
Yeah.
I would do anything for Jackie. I think Joe
Yeah.
would do anything for Jackie, and
Yeah.
Jackie for us. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of wisdom in there. It's like, what do you need? I'll hold you. What do you need? Are you okay? You know. And the kids all feel like they would do anything for each other. You know, and that gets tested every now and then, but they all they feel like they're part of one family, which is really, really beautiful.
Yeah, there's definitely no. I don't like that word step. It's like a step up or a step down. You know, where did that word come from? You know, we always say it's a bonus brother, bonus sister, although they don't use even any of those words. It's just my brother and my sister, which is really beautiful in itself.
Absolutely, because there's a thing running through our whole family, and it's like I realised this morning that I think in my first relationship, I learnt to go for it, to be the best I could be, and to actually dream big and to go out, you know, blah blah blah. There was like a lot of that in there. It was like, don't hold back, you know, be the one. But because it was not tempered with wisdom, you know, it ended up in breakup and ends up in all the ways that I got lost in my ego and the shadow and everything else. And then, without a doubt, Joe came along with. It's really different. Like right from the start when we first dated, I called you
Your country girl.
Yeah, my country girl. And what I was trying to say was, when I grew up, my family, she didn't know what I was trying to say. She just heard what she heard. I'm not a country girl. I left the country. I'm a city girl now. Don't ever call me a country girl. And I'm like, no. I left the city and went around the country with my family, then went back to the city and lost myself. And so it's like, you're my avenue back to myself, you know, and that's not because Jackie couldn't or Joe could or whatever else. It was just like the perfect person at the perfect time to go, all right, asshole, it's time to become who you really are, you know. And so I feel with us, like the relationship has been very much like who you are. One was go as big as you can, and the other one with Joe, it's been the whole time, it's been who are you really? Like, be your real self. That's bigger than anything you could do, is be your real self. And yet it's smaller, and yet it's bigger, you know. And so just from a wisdom perspective, it's like, I'm so thankful to have multiple people love me and look after me, from my sister and my family, and you know.
And played roles that have supported you to have that experience, yeah.
Some loved me unconditionally, never wanted to know what I was up to.
Yeah.
Others went, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like back on track, you know. But overwhelmingly, I've had so many people go, it's like almost like it was their mission to make sure I found who I really was, which is just a heart thing ultimately. Yeah. But so wisdom, I think, correlates with that, you know, knowing who we are.
Well, I think there's a lot of responsibility, like not to put pressure on you, but the life you've led where, I mean, at least within Australia, people over 40 know who you are. And that, I mean, the level of accountability and responsibility for who you are in the world. You look at the celebrities that, you know, are portrayed to us on the normal media, how many of those have had meltdowns?
Yeah.
Like very public meltdowns.
Deaths.
Yeah.
And whether they have or haven't, sometimes it's reported, you know, like it's a perception of it. So I think it's, you know, the universe, or you probably planned a few people in your life to give you the old slap around the ear to like keep you in line. Yeah. It's like, dude, people, you know, you're the guy who's catching the first wave.
Yeah.
You know,
you're going to catch the first flak too.
Yeah.
You're going to catch the first peering eye.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very aware of what it feels like to be looked at from outside and inside the fishbowl, so to speak. And it's not a victim thing at all. Or, it's odd being known. It's not that at all. I'm so grateful for that experience, because eventually what I've done is, as best as I could, was just broke the glass off the fishbowl, let all the water flow, and go, hey, I'm actually, it's me, it's you you're looking at. I'll show you if you can't see it, you know, I'll be as vulnerable as I can so you can see that it's me, you know. But it made so much sense why so many people so passionately followed me. I had a really amazing following of people, like I still do, because I'm working in this longevity field now and having these conversations. I'm moving around, and all the people that are interested in this subject are all the people that grew up on the couch watching me and the boys race, Leachy and Rideau and Dwayne and Grant and, you know, Darren and Dean and all that crew, right? And so, but really particularly Leachy, Rideau, me, Dwayne, Grant, probably Grant, Leachy, myself a lot. Guy Leach, you know, so many people say, oh, I remember you, you know, and they so passionately connect with what was going on there because there was a beauty in it. Because long story short was there's the land and there's the water and there's the place in between where the waves break, you know, and that's our life. We've got the known and the unknown. You've got your feet on the ground and you've got the place where you have to float and trust the bigger forces. But if you can move in and out between those two quite rapidly and ride the unknown back to the known and spring off the known back to the unknown. And I used to run around the flags, and I might have shared this with you, I think, but the voice in my head was singing, "You go your own way." And it was literally like there was a spirit saying, you know, go your own way, mate. Like, go your own way. And I could be 10th and I'd go the opposite direction to everybody else. Even though they were all going the way I went in the semi-final, I'd go a different way. And I'd find this pocket of water and I'd tap into it and be flowing exactly where I needed to go. And then it'd build up steam and I'd get out the back. And I'd shared that with you before, that I'd get out the back thinking, oh my God, I'm so far behind now, I can't even see them. And I'd swim around the swim cans and I'd be swimming in and then I'd see them all coming out. And we're like, I'm so far in front I couldn't see them, you know. But not because I was faster, better, or anything else, because somehow in my father, when he left Victoria as a man with a great job, you know, and a great house and a picket fence and a family, he went, something's not right, Bev. We've got to go see our own country and work out where. It was symbolic of leaving the grid, you know, leaving what you should do. And it just entrained it in me. So I've always gone my own way. So once again, grateful, you know, and on the front wave, and people identifying with this thing that I've done, going, oh, I used to be able to win. You could win from anywhere. I used to love that. I was like, wow. But that's because it's in everybody. That's in everybody. I just had a canvas that I could paint it on, which I don't even know how I did it really, other than being tapped in, caring, loving, and really damn angry. You know, not wanting to be bullied anymore and all those sort of things as well. So I tapped into some sort of power, but it's kind of crazy that it's all been a journey of actually end up being able to relate to people, because that's why they were inspired in the first place, because we're all the same.
Yeah, mate, I know that. I know, like, I'm a part-time marriage celebrant, and a guy I married a couple of years ago who got to talking about the podcast, and I said that I'd interviewed you, and he's like, oh my God, like he was in his early 40s, and he's like, Trevor's my hero. Like, I was just, like, you actually talk to him, and I said,
wow.
yeah, like, he's like, oh,
how
wow,
beautiful.
you know. And then when you're talking about the ocean and the wave stuff there, like when we used to live overseas, we had our own scuba dive resort, and I'm a scuba instructor, so you think I'd be really comfortable in the water. I am super comfortable under the water. On the surface, I'm shit scared. I hate it on the surface. Where it's, like, I was telling a guy I interviewed the other day on a podcast, I can remember drift diving, or, you know, like up near the equator, like around the island, and a school of barracuda came. And on this day, I had my dive master under the water as well, and someone else on the boat. And I just signaled to him, you stay with the customer, see you later. And I just got in the middle of the school of barracuda, and they just circled me. Now, I had a high-tech mask that had the depth. It had a computer in the mask, so I could glance and see my depth, because it's very important you don't go up or down too much. And I just went out into the blue with the barracuda circling me. And, you know, there was probably a couple of hundred barracuda, you know, Amazing. 2-3 feet long. And I'm just absolutely euphoric. And I'm thinking... And when you get up close and personal to barracuda, you know, you're like 2 meters from them, they look menacing. But they're not. They do. They have this ugly face that looks aggressive.
Like a piranha kind of thing.
They do look like that. But I've always had a peace with them underwater, and I'm out there, and I've just gone off into the blue for 5 minutes with them, and I'm thinking, I actually am not sure which way's back to shore right now, but I'm still okay with that. I'm so comfortable down there, but... You get me on the surface, like with my scuba gear on the surface, fine, because you just keep your regulator in, you got your mask on. But you put me on the surface in rough, choppy water out of my depth, I'm not a happy camper. I heard you do, I think might have been when my favourite podcast interviewed you, Trevor. The lovely ladies at Girl Awakening.
Girl Awakening.
It might have been in there or somewhere else. You described one day in the race, like, you know, taking a breath and getting smashed and going under some of, you know, when you were in a race and it was, the surf was unusually large and, you know, and that sort of thing, and sort of was like, oh God, like I can just picture all that, you know, because I grew up I was born here on the Gold Coast, you know, I've never been a surfer on a surfboard, but I get body surfing and stuff and get smashed a few times, and that surface I could relate, and it's just like it was building the emotion to me, and it was like, fuck that, mate, that sucked. You can have that. Like that's why you're the hero, because you're the first waiver guy, because I want to get out and I want to get under that water, and then I'm happy. Because you just got to get a meter. Because I remember I've instructed so many people, and we would go down the anchor line, and of course the boat's chopping around on top, and so hanging onto that anchor line on the surface, you're going up and down with the boat, and then they'd be starting to get apprehensive, and I'd say, look, let's just go down 2 meters, and when we get 2 meters down, if you still don't want to keep going, we'll come up. But just give me that. I remember my niece, she on her honeymoon, she flew over to the island, and she was saying, Uncle, I can't do it, and I'm like, honey, I'm your favourite uncle, aren't I? And I know I am. And I said, trust me. 2 meters. And once we got under 2 meters down, she was happy. It's just like, and we just kept going down. But that surface, watching you handle that, how did you describe it before, that difference between the land and the ocean,
which is the known and the unknown.
It's that real turbulent point, and I don't handle that section well. On land I'm fine, fully immersed, I'm in euphoria. But
the symbolism is that's the emotion, so it's the way it's expressed itself, or an argument or an emotion or conflict or whatever else. We're comfortable in the land where no one's around us, and we're comfortable spiritually when we're fully released, in the deep sea. But this, where it's all turbulent and moving in and out, and it looks like it's random, but it's not actually random. It's all patterned, because the waves are breaking 2 main forces, really 3. The one thing is where it's come from, so it's been set upon a certain target from a long time ago.
Your story.
Wave. And if it's a wave that you're going to experience, it was always coming for you.
Yes, it was for you.
So that could be something from our ancestors or from our early childhood.
Well, the story,
that's been created from a different energy at a different time and place or whatever, and it's actually travelling, and you just happen to be on the beach that day, and it's coming for you. So there's that. But actually it's coming for you, and it's actually I mentioned it earlier, there's a set of waves. So there's a smaller one at the front, then it gets bigger and it goes to the biggest one in the middle, and then it tapers off. And in the middle of a new swell, a good swell, is probably like 7 waves. Different places it can be 15, in Indonesia or whatever, they all stack together. But those waves are coming in, so there's actually a pattern to it. And there's a frequency in between, which we call the period of the swell. So the wave period, the time period between waves. So the longer the wave period, the wider the wave is. The shorter it is, the more peaky it is, but also as you come up from it, the next one's right in your face. So a wind chop and a wind swell is like slap, 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 slap. A ground swell with an offshore wind is like boom, and then 17 seconds later, boom, and then the average here on the east coast of Australia is probably 9, 10, 11 seconds, So it's long enough to go down, get underneath it and come up. But ultimately it's this place in the middle between the stillness of who we really are, the oneness. Then there's this temporary expression from some sort of pressure on the stillness that creates this surge, and it creates a wave. But what's really cool about the wave is, so one part is where it came from, why it breaks that way. The other part is it's the surface that it goes over. So as soon as it hits a shallow sandbank or a reef, it will plunge. If it hits it suddenly, it won't surge. It'll like peak and barrel. So if you're underneath that, good luck. If you're inside it, it's the best thing of your life. But all that water, I say to people, it's like the driveway of your house. If you're standing on top of a sloped driveway with bricks, you spray the hose, the water won't go across the bricks, it'll go into the grooves. It'll follow the grooves down. And that's what a sandbank is. A sandbank is the brick, and then the rip is the groove. So it'll roll off the sandbank, build speed with the rest of the water, and go out in the rip. So people go, I'm going in the rip, I'm going to drown. The rip wants me dead. The ocean's trying to drag me out to sea. It's like, no, the wave's just trying to return to the ocean. And if they didn't go back out, we'd all be drowning. So they've got to go back. So there's all this balance, and there's all this what comes in must go back out. And then if you realize where it's going out and you sit in it, relax, you actually go out and you get put back onto the sandbank again, and you put back in again. So you can go around and around and go, oh.
It's so easy for you to say that.
I was putting Jo
so easy to say that.
I take Jo swimming and go, come a little further, honey.
Nope, no way.
And then she'll go, all right, today, and she'll go out, and then she's holding my hand, and the next minute she's on my back. your arms over. You're like, you
What
know.
better person could you be on the back of?
Oh, that's come up many times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you think, what about Steve Irwin? I always bring up the Steve Irwin analogy.
Yeah, like you thought he knew everything about the water, you know.
And
like,
animals, look
you
what
know,
happened to him.
as if you know where the wave's going to break. Like, honey, watch it's going to break right there. Yeah, but that was a fluke. No, there's a sandbag there. How do you know there's a sandbag? I can see it.
But going back, it's all relatable. You know, it's all relatable. So it's like emotion for me. It's like going out. I hear you, what you're saying around, I'm happy underneath water too. I'm happy it's calm, it's nice. But as soon as I pop my head up and if there's waves, I'll just start freaking out. And it's like life, you know. It's like I'm okay if I'm cruising, and then if there's some chaos, I do get a little bit anxious and I do freak out a little bit. You know,
You're 50,000% better.
50,000% better.
Pretty good at it now.
Where
actually.
Trev's he's really okay with all of it. Like, you know, if there's chaos, yeah, he'll be like in it, but he will not be stressing. He'll be like, wow, there's something going on here, isn't it good? And I'm like, good, you know, where he's
I see a wave to ride.
that's the analogy of the ocean. And I you know, we both have known that for a long time. The way that I handle the ocean and the way that he handles the ocean is completely different.
And the waves are coming in, but that's okay, honey. We can ride them back out.
Yes, because
move
everything's going to
over.
be
Don't
okay.
stay here.
You know,
let's move over to the side.
Yeah.
And all the thing that's killing us now will take us out to the deep ocean.
It's life.
Again.
It's like the ocean is emotion, and it is completely relatable to your life. Because I know years ago, Trevor's actually taking people out into the ocean as sessions because how they
I did
react.
see that on your website years ago, and I thought, I would love to conquer that, and then I thought, stuff that. Like it's just
when you're ready.
Yeah,
it's a freebie for you. So just text me and out we go.
Scare the shit.
Yeah, well, that's life. You know, that's your life. Have a look at that because I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
So you still okay with me jumping on your back?
I probably
I'll
won't.
video the whole thing.
I probably won't be quite as thrilled as having my wife on my back, but I'll still feel enhanced as an experience.
And something we learned, like when we used to drift dive, you know, it's just effortless. You just go with the current. But occasionally the current would get very strong, and we would be ripping along. Yeah. But we realised that the stronger it was, the narrower and smaller it was, because it couldn't.
There you go.
It's compacted.
Yeah.
And it's like the creek.
Yeah.
And some spots the creek is deep out there.
Yeah.
But it's very narrow.
Narrow, yeah.
And then the spots where it's very wide, it's very shallow.
That's life.
It's just all how
life.
it is. Yeah.
It's all relatable, isn't it?
And so, we always learned if we were in one of these ripping strong currents, we just needed to swim sideways across it gently and head for shore or head out.
Yeah.
And before long, you would be out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was really strong.
Yeah.
If it was weak, it was wide.
Yeah. It's funny because we have that in our courses or workshops that we've done in the past. We always say to people that we're going and I know I'm going to get this wrong, we're going an inch wide and a mile deep.
Yes.
Not a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yes.
So because there's so much more we can get done.
And
it's so much more powerful.
Let's go take one thing and drop right down.
So it's exactly what you're saying,
rather than get a little bit of information, everything, and leave with some new ideas.
So it's about going deep, you know, and it's a very narrow gap.
That's where the power is.
Yeah, it's where the power is. So what you're saying is just so relatable back into life. Yeah.
Fastest way to get from here to there is in the narrow bit, isn't it? Because it's going to go
faster. Yeah.
And then you get the odd thing too, and I haven't seen it, but I had customers come and explain it to me. They've been up in Borneo and things like that, diving in 60 metre underwater visibility, and they hit the surface and they look down and there's multiple currents under them in different directions. They're watching the fish all swim into a very strong current, nose in, and then you can see 15 metres below that,
Going
there's
a different way.
another school of fish heading against the current going in, so maybe only
Layers.
15 metres difference.
Yeah.
You've got currents going in opposite directions, like one above and below the other.
The different dimensions.
At the very bottom, you can see it going a different direction. And I was like,
that's crazy.
yeah, very crazy.
Well, as above, so below, right?
Yeah.
Because the wind can be blowing this direction on the trees. You look up, the clouds are going that way. You look at the strata clouds further up, and they're going that way. I think that's really cool, because you don't understand how things are flowing in different directions in balance until you look at the depth. If you only swim in a 2 metre swimming pool, there's no current. If you only swim in a 2 metre river, it's just one current.
Yes.
Only swim in a 2 metre ocean, it's one way. But if you get in the 50 metre or the 100 metre or the 200 metres, you go, oh my God, it's like, there's something about, even when I say it, I just feel this amazing feeling. I used to paddle out on my ski when I was a young guy, and I knew the ocean was emotion. I knew having a swim was like a spiritual bath, but I'd never used those words. I used to say the ocean is emotion and that, but I didn't understand what it meant. But I used to get on my ski for a recovery paddle. And the ski you can do about, let's say 5.5, 6 minute kilometres if you're really cruising. And I would paddle out for because I knew I was going to get the wind back a little bit, and I would paddle out for say 25 minutes. So in the end, maybe up to 30 minutes. And I remember one day doing like 36 minutes. And so I'm equivalent to 6 kilometres from Surfers Paradise straight out to sea. And the thing I loved doing was not look back until I turned around. And then I'd get out there and I'd turn around, I'd see the same Gold Coast that was in my face on the beach would be way in the distance in these little speckled high-rise sort of thing. And it was this, I didn't know why, but I used to sit out there, I'd sit on my ski for ages going, like I'd got outside of the game for a little bit, And then so there's something about not just the depth, but being outside and seeing things from, above it, below it.
Reminded me of the Truman Show when he was trying to get out and away from it.
I didn't paddle far enough to bump into the edge. But one of my favourite movies.
And something you were saying earlier, and I was thinking about life as a game. I'm trying to remember now, but I often do see it as, like if you've ever played a computer game, like a car racing game or one of those shoot up ones where you get the avatar, and with our aging. Which avatar have we chosen? And, like say my dad passed a couple of years ago at 92, 100% cognitive, but 98% deaf.
Yeah.
And, so with communication issues, but when you could communicate, if it was on pen and paper, he would just read.
Yeah.
Remember we had one of the nurses come in one day with a laptop and she's just typing 60 words a minute, like, and he's just going, and he's going, yeah, thumbs, yes, no, like, totally cognitive.
Yeah.
But mum's 92, super fit.
Yeah.
And
the brain.
Very friendly. Like in the first 5 minutes, you wouldn't know her dementia level.
Yes.
But when she's just, like you described your dad. So it's what avatar did we choose here? Yeah. And as you said before, it's quite interesting with this new podcast you're doing, and you were the terminology we're using. I've heard that terminology before with these different markers and bridging things and stuff like that. Yes. It's So for this game we're in, what have we chosen? My dad smoked for 80 years, and we think that's what took him out because they had to do an invasive test for they had to puncture his lung, and it was like, and they said, well, that will probably kill him. So we didn't do that, But sort of interesting. This what have we got? And so on that too. Now I've also heard of, and I'm assuming with this your friend doing the podcast with, there's these new DNA tests that you can get done that show all of these markers, and what's your thoughts on that sort of stuff? Have you?
I was originally way back a while ago. Messing with nature, messing with we don't need to know this and everything, And then I've watched people. And I understand that just like you can take a vitamin C to help something, you can take a methylated B to actually produce a whole lot of healthy results, but you wouldn't know to take that until you saw the genetic elements because you can't pick it up. So in a blood test, for example, it might show you don't have enough vitamin B. So until the MTHFR gene was discovered, it's what role it's playing, and can you imagine how good they're going to get over a period of time? But it was just simply, we're going to give you more B, more B, more B. And then the more B, because it wasn't being absorbed, could create more problems. So it's almost just like, okay, while we're here, hack the game a little bit better and understand it, know it better, so we can bring better energy through it. So for me, it's all about life force. If it means that you can actually have better life force for longer. The simplest way I explain it is in the indigenous tribes for all of the great places around the world, the elderly are revered, and they raise the children. They play such a big role in the lives of everybody. They're gone to for their wisdom and everything else. In the modern world, the elderly are farmed off to the old age home, or to die, or to be managed with drugs and be pain free and all this sort of stuff. So there's this pocket of, from a level of awareness, it's a disastrous way we're treating the people that could teach us the most.
It does change in different cultures, though, I must say, too. I mean, in our culture, it's definitely more like that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that beautiful earthly rounded culture of the elderly complete their circle by helping the young that are born and the great grandkids and everything else.
The tribe,
that to me is the wisdom passes on, and the grandmother says, keep an eye out for Well, right now that could be keep an eye out for the media. They're not telling you the truth. What am I going to be telling my great grandkids? Hey, do you feel like there's something being told you that's not quite true? Yeah, it doesn't seem right, Papa. It's like, well, what do you feel when you think of it? And help them have a little realization that you're onto it the whole time. You're being lied to.
Yeah.
Because imagine what would change on the earth if we stayed around long enough that everything we'd learnt, we weren't just taking off to go on our holidays around the world. We were contributing to the world and actually talking and opening up and sharing and bringing our wisdom into it. That would actually, the circle of life would actually close back in again and would become what it's capable of being. So I look at it and go, ooh, is there an agenda, known or unknown, to actually go, well, let's make sure that circle of life doesn't fulfill its potential. Because if we farm them all off, they won't learn, they won't get the wisdom of how we used to handle it. But what I've noticed, and so I just think from my own perspective, I'd just love to be around to go, what do you think? To the great grandkids when they're old enough, what do you think, And hey, and also long enough to help the parents with the grandkids, with the great grandkids, to actually go, well, why don't we move out to the valley and get a little property together, and why don't you homeschool them? The class today is how to actually swim upstream in a creek. How to survive floating under the bridge.
Yes.
What, Papa? What are you doing? Don't worry, they'll be fine. That's what I see.
It's cracking the program, basically.
Breaking the program.
Yeah.
I love that thing. We interrupt your regular programming for this important broadcast. Because it is programming and it is spelling, and we are getting spells. Words are not used wisely at all, and they're not used with the essence that they originally intended. So we're actually we're putting spells on each other, even when we tell stories, as you said before. We're telling stories about how it wasn't my fault. So actually, you're a creator. It's not that it's your fault. It's all your creation. It's a co-creation, but it's all yours. So I think,
Yeah, and I know 2 nights ago I had dinner with our youngest son, he's 23, and then our oldest son's 38, so we've got the 4 boys in that age group. And, one of the things we've talked about the last few months is the cost of living.
Yeah.
The inflation's phenomenal. And they're like, oh, it's all so bad. And I've gone, I remember the 80s. I said, we were getting 2 pay rises a year. There was 2 national pay rises a year because inflation was going rampant. I remember our interest rate on our property went from 14% to 18.9%. And all we could do, we never missed a payment, but man, we missed a few meals and stuff like that. We made sure the kids were fed.
Yes.
We couldn't buy laundry detergent.
Yeah.
Sally was getting a cake of soap and grinding it up, on a shredder sort of thing, so we could wash our clothes. Well, money was tight.
Yeah.
It was tough. And I was out working 2 jobs all the time. But the kids don't remember that, because they weren't really, they didn't live through that. And it's not like it was that long ago, But there'll be another one of those. This current cycle will last for an amount of time, whether it's months or years or whatever, and then these boys will all remember it.
Yeah.
And but if we, like you said, if we've we drug up our great-grandparents, and so then they don't remember these stories. Like Sally's grandfather, he lived till he was 100, and he was in Darwin when it was bombed.
Wow.
And he never ever spoke about that until the last year or two. He never told his children. He never told his grandchildren, but he told some of his great-grandchildren about it. He just, it was a traumatic sort of thing, and he came back, he was totally fine, he lived a total normal life after, when he came back from that. And there was more bombs dropped on Darwin than on Pearl Harbor. And so it was a big event, and he was there, and he remembers coming out of one of the trenches and an unexploded bomb right there, as he crawled out of the trench and all this sort of stuff. And
that's pretty full on.
It was,
It's the old, it didn't happen because it didn't happen to me. We don't remember, it doesn't matter because it didn't happen to me, which is in the modern world a lot. I'm only worried about what's happened to me, but the wisdom of the older crew can say, hey, let's learn from the past here.
And like you were saying before, there's so many things we get lied to about, and they're cyclic too. We're talking about the cycles of the ocean, the cycles of things that are occurring on the planet, and some of the stuff that's hoodwinks, they're trying to hoodwink us with. You can see the cycles of that. It's just like their program they've got is so short. It's like, and so as we use our intuition and our eyes open, you start to see these things and you think, 10 years ago they did the same thing. And we all fell for that. Then no one got it, or hardly anyone. Now 20% of the people are getting it. And this one happened 5 years ago, and it's just different names in a different location.
From the wars fought, or the pandemics that we're in, or all the financial crises that we're heading into, or it's just all repeat. That's the one thing I've been seeing even today. I was like, wow, it's all patterns. When we did some beautiful work a lot of years ago, and on the brochure for the work, doesn't exist anymore, but on the brochure for the work it said, do you recognise there are patterns in life and wish to rise above them? And I just, I remembered it this morning. I went, that's 30 years ago we did that. It started us on the journey of opening right up to what's really going on. And it's like, wow, do you recognise there are patterns in life and wish to rise above them? And it's like, that's exactly what it is. As soon as you know there are patterns in life, you can rise above them, because if you think they're real and there are specific circumstances, or that it's this thing, if you give it all this significance, it's not just a pattern of something repeating that's designed to actually drag you into unconsciousness, get you to go into fight or flight. Eat
the junk food. Get on, what do you call it? As soon as I get on, I was thinking of just basically giving your sovereignty over and just following the rules. Forgetting,
giving yourself
it's
away.
Easier, giving yourself away to forget.
Giving yourself back to the pattern, back to the construct Matrix, that's just going over and over again.
Well, if you go back to that potential theory of we're in a simulation and in a game, have you ever watched the kids? I've played it a couple of times with my grandson, Mario Kart or something. The little thing, they're going round and round. You get to this spot and mud splurts on your windscreen. Well, it's something you didn't enjoy, whatever. It's just going around the same track. And you can vary it up a lot. You got
different levels and all that.
You might have 12 different tracks you can select, but most of the circuit is the same.
Qualify for the next track eventually.
And it's just like, it's just going around. And after a while, if you've got your eyes open and you really it's like, I know what corners come. I know the mud's coming up in a minute. If I veer to the left, it won't land on the windscreen. And it's just like
Donkey Kong was the same.
I remember the Kelly Slater Pro Surfer. It's the only game I ever finished. The only video game. It was always like, I'm not just going to go all the way, but you had to surf these different waves, and you could get different suits, and you could qualify for the next wave on the world tour. It was a couple of decades ago now, and then you get to the final qualification when you won the big one. You got there, you went and you surfed a wave in Elysium, and Elysium was a wave in outer space, and in the background was stars and everything else. And because there's a strong connection with Kelly, we were together a lot when he created the game. I was like, we're finally off to Elysium. Elysium was like, it's just a bigger wave, and but
it wasn't as special as you thought it was going to be.
So I thought Kelly was going to free us all out. He might still, but it's Yeah, this understanding, it was making me laugh when you were saying it, that we're going around the same track over and over again. Such a beautiful thing.
It's only the people who, like the gamers, you look at the champion gamers, they've just done it a lot.
Yeah.
And they know what's coming next.
Yeah.
They know all the basic pitfalls. And, you know, and
But why would you want to win the same game over and over again?
But I guess what I'm saying is we don't realise, because we're hoodwinked,
That we're doing the same thing.
Potentially,
Yeah.
we are in this cyclic
Absolutely.
game.
Yeah.
And when we respect the elders,
Yeah.
and when we glean the wisdom from them, sometimes they mightn't realise that what was exactly going on, but they can share some information. They can say, hey, Doug, when you go around that corner, stay to the left,
Yes,
or the mud
yes,
will be on your
yes.
windscreen and you might crash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, why is that, Pop? Like, well, it happened to me once.
Yeah.
And I've heard a couple of other people who've
Yeah.
How I
done
Met
it.
Your Mother.
It's happened to, yeah.
How I Met Your Grandma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and so when we do take on the wisdom of those who've been there before us,
Yeah.
those who've done more laps around the track,
We don't have to walk that same.
we don't have to go through. And that's one thing we've always wanted for our children, is for them to not go through the same pitfalls for us. But then they are going to go through pitfalls because they get to the next level.
Yeah.
And then they're different. You know, that bad corner with the mud is on a right-hand corner instead of a left-hand corner, and
Yeah.
they've got to go through it. But it's being able to realise it's not a bad thing. It's like, oh, I saw mum and dad go through that. I saw my grandparents go through
Yeah.
a similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another aspect to that too, which I've spoken to Trevor about a few times, is this whole blueprint of life, you know, and that I had this thought one day, or remembering one day, of that there's about, I don't know, let's say 10 blueprints in this lifetime, and you have your life is off one of these blueprints, and it might be, I don't know, getting molested, it might be having an alcoholic father, it might be having separated parents or whatever, but there's all these different blueprints.
Which are like archetypes in a way.
Archetypes, yeah. And that we're all born into this
Yeah.
selection of blueprints, and that the journey of life is to be able to move outside of those blueprints, you know, and move into your own journey of whatever that is.
Yeah.
Not be contained anymore.
Yes.
That's very powerful. I was just thinking about the simulation thing that you said, because I've been exploring this for a while, is that from the fourth dimensional perspective, which is where we've introduced time is where the intellect is as well, because we've now got time and space. So we've got the past and the future. And based on the past and future, we're not in the present. So we're in a fabric or a construct of separated into linear time. And so then we have to measure this as good or bad, right or wrong. So inside the measurement of it, is this situation good or bad, right or wrong? We are good or bad, right or wrong. We're acceptable, unacceptable. We're lovable, not lovable. Good enough, not good enough. There's rich, poor. There's fat, skinny. There's dumb, smart. Slow, fast. You know, or it's all duality. So the mind, just like ones and zeros in our computer programming, operates in duality. It goes like that. So from a frequency perspective, which is the Nikola Tesla thing, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency and vibration. Everything is energy. Yeah. Things that are collected together are vibrating at similar or same frequencies. So from emotions right through to the way the cupboard's constructed with wood, it's cells all vibrating at the same frequency. But from the mind perspective, is we've got information. This is that thing, that field that I was talking about earlier, that is operating, yes, around us as a person, but also around the whole planet. That's the micro and the macro. We're solving the planet's issues by solving our own issues. There's nothing that the Ukraine and Russia have got going on that we don't have going on inside of ourselves. You know, well, it's hard for a lot of people to hear, but that's the truth is, no, we're defensive and protective, and we've been manipulated and maneuvered into this, and it's like there's a bad guy over there and a good guy over there. This is all fabrication. So inside this construct of the mind of good, bad, right and wrong, then we go, are we in a simulation? Because from that place, it appears though we are. But we're viewing the idea or asking the question, are we in a simulation, from within the construct of mind? So yes, we are. But it's not are we or aren't we? We are at that level in a simulation, but it's overlaid over something that's very organic, that has a blueprint based of God consciousness, unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, the pure potentiality is sitting inside of every single person with the original blueprint of the cell, as opposed to what the cell or the humans experienced in this life. And my realization just recently was I could feel an identity that I was letting go of, and I could see it inside of myself, and it was like a strange black obsidian color shape. It was like a cube bent into different shapes. I was like, whoa, and then wedged against it was another identity. So it could be the Ironman, the father, the spiritual teacher's an identity, you know, the son, the community member, the party goer. Like there's all these identities that we've grown up and learnt through, you know, and the husband, you know, the ex-partner, they're all identities and they're all shapes. And every one of them, like Jo was saying, when we go inside and we identify with this identity, it's actually a reality. Inside that things, you can't forgive people, and you've got to actually be very careful of what other people say and do to you. Inside of this identity over here, you've actually got to be free and like no one care, you don't care, and nobody, you know, the party girl or the party guy, whatever it is. Over in this identity, everything's serious and you've got to really study, and so they're all actually pockets or blueprints or constructs that we're actually learning through. And my realization was that when you've extracted, each one of them's teaching you something. So maybe you learn to be unconditional over there. Maybe you learn to be forgiving over there. Maybe you learn to be more determined and resilient over in that identity. This one here, you learn to share and collaborate. And so as you can extract the actual spiritual lesson, you take it out of the constructs and the shapes back into the sphere of who you are, like the spherical nature of the universe. So I've been thinking about it lately and going, yes, we are in a simulation, but actually we're not stuck in a simulation. The simulation is, we're writing our own rules every time we stay inside of our reactions. Mm-hmm. So when we undo our reactions and we be still with whatever's occurring, we go, look at that. That's the exact thing I didn't want to happen. I want to punch that person in the face right now. Oh, have I been here before? Oh my God, I was on the playground in year 6. It was exactly this experience. And you know, when you can actually see where your reaction came from, you stand very still, it actually moves out of you and you come out of the construct and you're no longer damned to repeat it. You know, and that's sort of been realizing lately. It's not are we or aren't we? It's like, yes, we are, but we don't have to be if we can extract the lesson. And our great teacher that we work with, he used to say, he called them negative energy fields, negative fields of energy that are dominating certain portions of your life. And he used to say, we have to work with them. We have to learn from them. I'm like, no, they're our enemy. That's the reason why I'm reacting, because of this unconscious. And it was like, no, they're all actually highlighting one of your own blind spots or one of your own shadow aspects. And so, big rant to finish, but that's what I've been realizing. There is a simulation and you can feel it, and it can feel like, but it's only because I'm still feeding it. You know, I can't be in the simulation unless I've agreed with it at some level and gone, yeah, but it suits me with the ex-partner, or it suits me with, you know, looking good over here, or taking a bit for myself and not noticing that there's a disparity in the world and sharing it around, and, you know. Yeah.
All right, so I've got one last question for you, and I'm just curious. How do you view goal setting differently now as you age? Does it change or same?
Wow. Great question, because I'm not a goal setter and Trev is. So
I had come from that big time, yeah.
I never was a goal setter. I would just decide to do something and do it. I never really focused on an outcome. I would just probably go for it. So I don't think anything's changed in my world. I've, never being a goal setter, the question's probably irrelevant for me, because I just go for it. If I want to do something, I'll do it. Yeah. I don't go and ask Trev, or I don't go and ask anybody. I just do it.
Jo will say, I've been wanting for years to do a program with girls in a school, and I'll go, that's awesome, hun. She goes, I'm just finally ready to do it. I'm going to do it. What are you going to do about it? She goes, I'm not sure. I'm just going to put some thoughts together. And I'll come back that night. She'll have a website, 8 programs written. She'll contact 35 schools. I'm not kidding you. She's freaky. You should get.
But I have to really want to do it. And then if I'm a little bit, I'm the other side to that is that if I'm a little bit not, you know, I'm just not.
Highly resistant.
Yeah. Basically.
And I'm like, Jo will get, so when she wants to do it, she does it, and it's like super inspiring. And I'll be like, I'll have 10 stories why I can't do it today and whatever else. I'm in the circle
Yeah.
It's so funny because the male's in the straight lines and the female's in the circle. I'm often wafting around in the circle and Jo's in the straight lines, and it's really funny.
That's
It's
so
like,
funny.
oh, for God's sake, just did that done, you know. But we've learnt so much from each other.
Yeah.
You know, I think...
Yeah, because he'll explain things. Like if I'm a flat out no, he'll say, but what about this and what about that? And it's just different viewpoints or different aspects. And I'll be like, yeah, well, I didn't think of that like that. And so he'll start to add things in that I haven't been able to view from where I stand. So we're very good at giving each other. Yeah,
Jo will get me to
viewpoints.
cut through.
Yeah.
Jo will say, that's great, you've got all that. Now, are you ready? You know, like, yep, all right, well, I'm standing here waiting, you're going to do it? You know, it's like, well, I'm going to have a surf and a meditate and a breathe and a sleep.
I just need to go to the fridge and just get something to eat.
My sister and I got this thing because we grew up travelling around Australia with Toe in the caravan, is that when we go somewhere, that it's not to grab the keys and your shoes and your hat.
It's to the fridge.
It's to the fridge.
And it hasn't changed. It's so annoying.
Because what would happen is my dad would say, we're going to go for a walk, and we'd leave the caravan and we'd go forever. Like for months, it felt like. I remember like starving, just going, oh my God, you know. And so it's like, even from the understanding point of view, Jo would be like, why do you always have to go to the fridge?
Every time.
I'd be like, because I grew up thinking, if I don't take it with me or if I don't eat before I go, I don't know when I'm going to eat next. She's like, we're going to check the P.O. box. You don't know if we get lost there, if we get cut off by the floodwaters in the river. You know, it's like, so it's over the highway, you know. But it's like, that's how you can understand each other, you know. But definitely I've always been about the circle. It all makes sense if you go to the circle, and Jo's well, yeah, but...
So Trev writes down everything, how he's feeling, what's going on around him, we're going away in August, which we do every year. We go on a outback trip somewhere, and he'll have the whole trip planned. And
not quite.
Kind of.
I'll have all the places I want to go.
Yes.
And I'll plan the first 5 days to make sure we get to the major place we wanted to get to, or to meet the sister-in-law or whatever. So I'll have that. And then I'll go, because I was really careful about that. Then I'll go, guys, I had these things put in. Like, I don't know how far, they're roughly this far apart, but let's just go do it. So I have the places I want to see, and I tick those off. But I don't have, we've got to go there. And
he'll he'll want to do the yearly planner on the wall, put everything in.
That sounds so strange after what we just said.
I know, but I'm not. I'm like, really? You want to do that? Yeah, I want to do that, because he likes to visually see what's happening. But he is also very busy and has a lot going on.
I want to see the whole picture.
He wants to see the whole picture.
So I'll put it on the yearly planner, but Jo will write the whole program. And I'm like, I can't go into the detail, but if you put it up, Northern Territory, first week of June, you know, I can, yes, you know, I like to see the whole.
You do.
And you're like,
I just jump in and do it, yeah.
The opposites attract.
That's powerful,
complement each other.
We do complement each other, It's good.
It's been really amazing, actually.
Yeah.
That's good.
Great question.
All right, so I'm really looking forward to listening to your new podcast that's coming out. And I'm very much continue.
Thank you, Doug.
I have not listened to every episode of Girl Working, but I would have listened to 95% of them.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Occasionally I miss one for whatever reason. And we're over here at the little cottage, and this is often when I'm cleaning in here, inside or out, or I'm vacuuming leaves or mowing the lawn all around here. The headphones are on and on. That's every Friday when it comes out.
Some of the episodes they've done, like the ladies, the tears and the emotion things. Because I'll go to the gym and listen to it. And I'm looking around, there's people walking around all buffed and, you know, in tiny clothes and everything else. And I'm hearing Jo's going, oh my God. And some lady's going, I never realised. And, you know, and I'm there pumping iron going,
It's so funny because we've had a big increase in men listening to the podcast. And we have one man that continually messages us on Instagram saying, thank you so much. I got so much out of that. And so it's been really, really beautiful, because it's surprising who listens.
What was that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want?
Yeah.
You can listen to this and you can actually understand. You know, I understand my partner now.
Yeah. And we're sort of almost like the opposite, because you do just about all of your interviews live, like we're doing now in the same room together, whereas just about all of mine are on Zoom.
Yeah.
Because I mostly now just want to interview men.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And I struggle with men who are in driving distance to here.
Yeah.
Well, for me to find them anyway, who
Yeah.
want to talk about intuition
Yeah.
and why we should develop it and how to do it. Men are on a similar wavelength to me, you know, and yeah, something I've actually done because I struggle so much finding men like that to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
Probably 15 or more men who I've interviewed in the last 6 or 8 months, I've got them on a little group, and now every 2 to 3 weeks we hook together for an hour.
Unreal.
And we talk about intuition or, you know, integrity or something.
Yeah.
And then some of those, I call it like a men's Zoom roundtable.
Nice.
And some of those I'll put on as podcasts
That's
episodes.
a great idea.
Yeah. And it's good because we're like-minded. Half of them are coaches. One of them's like a boxing champion, and you know, there's you know, psychologists. There's a wide variety of
Which is
guys.
nice.
Sometimes only 2 or 3 of us get on. I think the most we've had is 8.
Yeah.
And I just facilitate. I'm just like, you know, who wants to talk next, and
Yeah.
I don't talk any. We all have a, you know, a few minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. It depends on how many of us are there, and we yak for about an hour. And usually at the hour mark, it just sort of winds up, and we all say goodbye and off we go. And and it's, you know, like, I think technology is a double-edged sword, but for that, for me,
That's
it's
amazing.
the side of it I love.
Yeah.
That's a
That
gift.
I can connect with men all around, you know, all around Australia and in America at the same time, and we're having a good little natter.
And you're Knights of the Round Table again.
Yeah.
It's like that archetype, because I felt that in you when I was coming out. I was literally like, no, we were talking about it with a friend.
Yes, we were.
Knights of the Round Table. We're still exploring the same things that we would have explored in that Arthurian legend of, you know, which is all about the Holy Grail and the Christ consciousness and all that sort of stuff. It's actually about what's real. You know, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So cool.
All right, well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dad.
And,
Been lovely.
really enjoyed, and I know the listeners will love the wisdom. And for those who are young, they might be like, "Oh, yeah, talking about older stuff." But for those of us who get it, because I know when I was young, I didn't get it.
Yes.
But it's started to sink in now.
Yeah.
I know those older listeners,
Always something
not
to
necessarily
take away.
as old as me, but we'll have a.
Someone out mowing their lawns on their ride-on
Yes,
lawnmower,
yes.
listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Hello to you.
Yes,
And,
yes.
Someone else to mopping the floor, and driving in their car on their way to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
Good to see you.
Well, we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.